So here are two things that I wish somebody told me when I was a younger player. The first one is to approach every situation as though you're being evaluated, because the truth of the matter is you kind of are. There are eyes everywhere and there are ears listening all the time. And what this means to me in this context is, well before the whistle blows and you have your uniform on, the game kicks off, this is about what people perceive you to be all about as you show up to the field. The way you talk to your parents exiting the car, the way you approach your coaches and greet them, the way you greet your teammates, the way you prepare your gear, the way you carry yourself through pre-warm-up preparation, the way you figure out what works for you on the day. All these things people take notice of. And so the advice here, if there is any, is to just approach situations knowing that you have a standard to uphold if you want to be a top player or you consider yourself a top player. Additionally, so much of what you do when people aren't watching will dictate what happens when they are watching. And so it may seem obvious, but let me give you an example of when this is tested and can kind of fall apart. The other night I was at a club training session hosted by our club. I was not coaching this session, I was merely there as a parent. My son was doing sessions with his age group and one age group older. He did 2 in a row to get some extra work in. After his age groups were done and the one he was in afterward finished, an older age group came in, and I noticed 2 of my players were attending this session. Again, I'm not coaching, I'm there with my son, I'm just being a dad. And they paired with players that were far below their level of play, but they were buddies. And they were messing around during warm-up. They weren't getting anything out of the activities. They were going through the motions. And it wasn't until about 15 minutes passed when one of them glanced up and noticed that I was talking to my son. I could see him out of the corner of my eye, and he nudged his teammate who's also on my team. And immediately they started raising their level up. Now, my intent was not to alter the way they behaved. It's not my session to coach. I'm actually more interested in how they react. However, what's important to learn from this, the teachable moment, is when you show up and you need to get something out of a session, so much depends on the way you conduct yourself. And if you are paired with somebody who's far below your standard or doesn't train with intensity or doesn't have motivation, then you need to be the standard bearer for that. If there is nobody else there to do that, then you have to push yourself even harder. So for me, I think so many young players get comfortable thinking that the spotlight isn't on them. And I'm not trying to say that every situation should be full of pressure, but there are always eyes on. And one of the growth areas for all my players is to approach situations with the same standard of excellence that they would when the team session is going on or we're playing toward a targeted objective or I'm there coaching. If you're there to play, respect the fact that someone's taking time out of their day to coach you. Secondly, respect yourself enough to get something out of what you're doing. That's an important lesson. Don't waste your time. Don't go through the motion. That takes zero skill. No one gets better by doing that. And so, as you can imagine, they did raise their level considerably, and that's a good thing. I'm not looking at this through a negative lens. This is just a teachable moment that when you're in the public setting, the way you act, the way you train, the way you play, there are always eyes on. The second point is more for the collective. This is more of a team-centric approach. Is if you constantly train here on a constant basis and you go to a game and you want to play here, that's never going to happen. That level could be high and you want to play here on game day, it's never going to happen. Because what this gap is, that's luck. And so the ethos that I think is important to articulate here is you need to be training at such a high level, knowing that when the pressure of a game takes place, when that whistle blows and there's an opponent who doesn't know you that wants to beat you at every opportunity, the levels are going to drop. Your level is going to drop as a collective and as an individual because there's pressure. There are variables that we can't control. It's not necessarily a coached session. My job at that point is to make adjustments, but it's the player's game. I cannot play anymore. once that whistle blows. And there's a great phrase that a friend of mine said is, I'm the best player on your team who can't play. I'm not allowed to play. So inevitably, because those levels are going to drop, you can't expect miracles to happen, which means you must raise your level of training to such a high degree that even when it falls, it's still above the level that your opponents have prepared to train at. So if our level is here and the game level is here, we know there's going to be a drop off. We still need to maintain a higher level than our opponents at all times. So even when we do fall below our standard, we're still higher than that of our opponents. Anyway, 2 pieces of advice that I hope serve people. Always approach situations as though you're being evaluated, and the level that you're training at may be high, but it's probably not high enough. But as long as it's higher than that of your opponent, you're probably going to put yourself in a good situation to have some success.